CC Pillow?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are they sponsoring?
No, Chris wanted you guys to see Job.
Ah, that's a lovely picture. Thank you.
AJ said thank you.
But not Tim.
I was
So
confused.
You.
Me, Tim,
You.
and
Tim
you,
Gunn.
Jennifer,
Tim
and
Gunn.
you, Monica. We are the hosts of the Spooky Chat podcast.
Yes,
Hi.
this is Monica.
This is Jennifer. Hello, welcome. Well, this should be coming out about Halloween. I'm going to try to put this out simultaneously on the podcast and the YouTube. So if this is on the YouTube, welcome. I want to tell you guys a little ghost story.
Ooh.
And then I'm going to go into it. So on the YouTube, it's only going to have this little bit of a ghost story. So if you guys are on the YouTube, please, please, please go to Spotify, go to Stitcher, find our podcast, and we'll go over that after this story. But right now, turn the lights down low.
Let me make a s'more.
Yep. Light your spooky candle.
Go to
Light your
fire
incense.
pit.
Oh,
Light
yeah.
your incense.
Or your sage. And let me tell you this story. This is my rendition of C.F. Eckhart's Lakey's Ghost from TexasScapes.com, The Ghost of Highway 281. And
That's a real highway in Texas?
it is a real highway in Texas. The specific piece that we're going to talk about is 281 from Blanco, the city, to Johnson City,
Yeah, shout out.
birthplace of President Lyndon B. Johnson. So this story was told to somebody who told it to C.F. Eckhart. And it was a young man in the 60s. He is going to meet this girl. He drops her off and he's got to get home very quickly. And the way home takes him from Blanco through Johnson City. So because this is the 60s, he's driving along. It's a dark road, and it's still dark as shit out there.
But it's a straight road.
It's straight, but it has some hills.
And the hills.
And some of those
slight hills.
Some of those hills have names. The largest one is called Sugarloaf, and they're called like Los Pilones, like Sugarloaves of Seguin, which the city of Seguin is nowhere near here, but this was probably back in the olden days. So as he's approaching the largest hill, Sugarloaf, he sees a gentleman on the side of the road. This being the 60s, you still stop, you still pick people up. So he pulls over and he sees a guy wearing, quote unquote, light blue shirt and tan or light brown trousers. As he approaches him, he sees a large stain on the side of the man's shirt and an apparent cut on his neck.
Oh,
So
no.
the student's thinking, oh my gosh, I gotta help this guy. Let me see what's going on. As he pulls up to him, and is about to roll down the window because this is the 60s, he sees that the guy in his right hand has a large blade about a foot long. Before the guy can get in the car, he's about to let him in. He rolls down the window a little bit. He's like, hey, do you need some help? The guy, who now he realizes, oh yeah, he's covered in blood. That is a real knife. He says, 6 are still living whom I intended to kill. And that's when the young man's like, I got a GTFO. And he revs it up and he gets out of there. He just pulls off. He's like, forget this. I'm getting home. So he goes back to his house, doesn't tell anybody what's going on. Maybe about a year later, he's at a barbershop in Blanco, and somehow the story comes up, and he mentions, oh yeah, I saw this guy on the side of the road about a year ago, da-da-da-da-da. And the guys in the barbershop are like, oh, you saw Old Man Lakey's ghost. You saw Lakey's ghost. And of course, this young man was like, what? But this legend is based on true events. Who in the heck is Old Man Lakey? Who's Al Lakey? Al Lakey? Huh?
Oh, I thought you were asking us because I didn't do any research. Did you, Monica?
No, I don't. I know.
I did. I'm pretending like I'm a reader. If I were a reader, I'd be like, who's Al Lakey? Is this even true? Is this real? Spooky babies. Yes, it is. It is real. I ran across this story because Tim had said, hey, there's a legend out here on 281. And we were like, really? And he's like, I've never, like, had you ever heard of it before? I remember you sent us the article in the chat.
No, I feel like I may have heard about it once in my lifetime, but it was just something that kind of came and went because it sort of sounds familiar, but yeah, I'm not going to sit here and tell you any stories about it. So I'm here to learn.
Mr. Lakey, Al Lakey, was a real person that lived in the late 1800s. And his homestead, just like a lot of homesteads back then, a whole family would buy like a huge parcel of land, and then each family member would stay on a different section of that land. And that's kind of what they did. This was near the Pedernales River and Hickory Creek. I'm not sure where Hickory Creek is, but Pedernales River runs like right on the side of Johnson City. So I'm taking this from several different sources, mainly 101highlandlakes.com, Haunted Highland Lakes, Ghost of Murderer Al Lakey Roams US 281 by Daniel Clifton, wikitree.com, Albert Newton Lakey, 1844 to 1885. And this was written by a member of the Lakey family. Like, this is their wiki. And then txgenwebcounties.org, Blanco, the Lakey murders and lynching. And then I've got a little bit from Dallas Morning News, May 8th, 1892, and then the Deseret News in Utah. Oh, and some of this is also taken from the Blanco County History, which is a reprint of Frontier Times from April 1936, Mr. Lee Brown. Some of this is taken from something that was handed down in 1936. A little bit of everything here. Al Lakey goes over to his neighbor's house, John Green. John Green wasn't there, but he walks in the house, because a lot of these houses, they don't have locks. And he takes John Green's Winchester rifle, takes about 12 rounds, and leaves. He stops by his brother's house first.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Lakey did?
Mr. Al Lakey. Al Lakey
Okay.
stops by Nathaniel Greenberry Lakey, and everybody just calls him Barry. There are disputes about who was shot first, but Mr. Lakey took that John Green's Winchester, went to his brother's house. In one account, it was Isabel, who is his brother's wife, his brother, then Mr. Stokes, Mrs. Stokes, their daughter Fanny, who is married into the family, and then Mr. Lakey, his own daughter Martha. That's one order. The other order is that it's the step niece-in-law Fanny, it's his brother Nathaniel, Mr. Stokes, Mrs. Stokes, comes back for his daughter, and then kills Barry's wife, Isabel. I kind of think that the first one, where he would kill his sister-in-law and then his brother, and then, you know, all the in-laws, and then come back to kill his own daughter, I kind of feel like that's more of a realistic order.
Okay, so regardless of the order, he killed all. I mean, it's all the same people, right?
It's all the same people. It's just different orders about where he went. And at one point, so his nephew saw him. That's Barry's son, and he's now run. His wife saw him, and she managed to escape.
Sure.
And so at this point, yes, with the baby, Mr. Lakey cuts his own throat. And so he's bleeding out. There are 6 people dead. There are some stories that come out that say that it was 5. There's some that say it was 8. But for sure, they're on 6. Like, they agree to that. On August 26th, but it's a lynch mob. And they want Al Lakey. So on August 26th, they break into jail. They overpower the deputies and the sheriff, and they grab Al Lakey, and they take him out to give him some vigilante justice. They take him to a live oak, and they start to string him up. Now, Mr. Lakey is very tall. He's also very lanky. They have him stand on a box in the back of a wagon. They put the noose around his head, and they ask him if he has any words. And then that's when he says, 6 are still living whom I intended to kill. And if you give me a knife, I'll go back to Johnson City and finish what I started.
Wow.
And yeah. And at that, everybody's just like, this guy's insane. We're done. This is our 3rd time trying to record this certain story. So it felt like if it wasn't going to work tonight, that it was going to be totally cursed and that we should not proceed with this story. But
yeah,
it seems to be working tonight.
Those past 2 times we tried to, there were gremlins in the computer. Yeah.
Uh-oh, you just cut out right there. Fuck, this is so creepy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's probably Mr. Lakey.
Gross.
It just seems so wild that he just kind of woke up and said, I gotta do this.
Yeah, I don't.
And it's like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
Like, you absolutely don't have to do this right now. But it just seems wild, right?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, especially since there's not really like a reason. He's just like, I had 6 more to do, and I'm gonna do it again if I get the chance. I'm gonna do it if I get the chance. Like,
Yes.
what the heck does that mean?
Yes, and it's like, don't pick him up. Like, and there's still, so there are still Lakeys that live in the area, and I do want to make sure that we respect that family. But I mean, it is so creepy and a lot of the information that I have was composed by members of the Lakey family. So this is the legend of Albert Lakey, the ghost of Highway 281 out near Johnson City and Blanco. So if y'all are out there, don't pick up any hitchhikers. And my daughter asked, she was like, so what happens if we see this Mr. Lakey? I was like, we drive on by. And she's like, we're not going to pick him up. And I was like, hell no.
I had to walk a few miles down that same stretch from what was that, 290 and 281 where the two meet. Right there all the way back to the house. That was probably about a 4-mile walk in the middle of the night. It was the only light that was out was the moonlight. And I did not there was probably like a handful of cars that drove by that did not stop. Yeah, my car died when I was heading home. And so that was a nice, nice fun walk, pre-cell phones.
My God.
And actually that was, I think I was holding out on getting a cell phone at that time is what it was. But that says a lot.
Well, now whenever I leave the house and I don't have my cell phone, my daughter goes crazy and she's like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, people used to leave the house all the time with no cell phones.
Yep.
Like you just left the house and you were fine, kind of.
That is true.
So.
People had to know where you were to call you?
Yes.
All of this, like, recounting when murders happened was making me think about Lizzie Borden. Like, nobody really knows the timeline.
Yes.
But everyone's just kind of trying to figure out what happened when.
Yes, and this was exactly like that. Nobody really knows the timeline. You just have to go along what you think may have happened, what made the most sense. Like, to me, it would make sense that he started off at his brother's and then went to his house. Whereas in some of the timelines, it said he started at his house, went to his brother's, then came back to his house. And I'm like, that seems like a lot of places to travel when you're ready to kill people. Like, I just feel like I just feel like he would have started off at his brother's house. Like, that made more sense to me. But, like, some of the Lizzie Borden stuff doesn't make sense to me. And it's like, well, it had to happen some way.
But maybe this guy, maybe he, like, killed someone and he was like, you know what? I've already killed these people. I may as well go back and kill this other person. So, I mean.
That's true. And they just never say what exactly. I mean, they have all of that, maybe allegations that are never substantiated. But they don't. There's nothing else that said, oh, he was upset about this. And like the posse, there's no mention of them asking. There's no mention of like, why would you do this? It's just like, he did it. We gotta kill him. Okay, bye.
Yeah.
And it would seem like y'all didn't ask him, like, why would you do such a thing? Or maybe they did, and the answer they got was not something worth
unsatisfactory.
Reporting.
Yeah.
A lot of the family members who were surviving members, because there were kids that survived that weren't targeted. And so their children, they're the ones that had heard these stories and decided to put together a family history. And so I'm thankful that they put that family history together, because that's what a lot of the things that I use for my research. So I think I said TexasHillCountry.com, Johnson City's Lakey, The Ghost of Highway 281 by Barbara Shalou. The wiki, which was put together by members of the family. There's a Flickr, Al Lakey Still Rides, and then there's LakeyMurders.blogspot.com, and that's the one run by the family members that were curious and wanted to get more information about what happened. Well, thank you guys for tuning in once again to the Spooky Chat podcast. Where can everybody find us, Tim?
You can find us anywhere that you can listen to podcasts. That would be Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher, Buzzsprout. Yes.
Yep.
YouTube now. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we've got a YouTube channel, if you can believe it. How crazy.
Yeah, so give us a listen, subscribe, leave us some comments.
Nice ones, or I'm going to delete them. Monica, how can people get in touch with us?
We're on Twitter. Our handle is at Spooky Chat Pod on Twitter. You can also email us your thoughts, feelings, opinions, emotions at spookychatpodcast@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, spooky_chat_podcast on Instagram. And we're on Facebook, Spooky Chat Podcast.
We are a lot of places.
We're everywhere. Thank you to Forrest Wilson for our beautiful song, Gallows.
Thank you, Forrest Wilson.
I love it. Thank you.
Me too. Love it.
And you guys stay tuned because Tim is doing his days of October. He's doing some Halloween themed movies. I don't think it's going to be all scary, but I think that's okay.
But except that this episode is going to come out on the last day. So you can cut that.
Well, go back and look at our entries and go see what Tim watched and let us know what you watched. Okay, never mind. I'll cut it all. Fine. Monica, take us out.
Stay safe, spooky babies.
Please, or don't take us out. Oh my God.
On April Fools, can we have y'all say it? Or maybe we don't say it, or maybe I say it backwards?
Say it backwards. I
gotta practice it.
Oh my God.
That's
you're gonna
funny.
you're gonna open a door and Zuzu's gonna come out.
Maybe.